But I saw someone post in a chat today that I'm in, and they talked about separation season. And I just want to talk about how important that is, right? What is separation season? So I always see this happen 2 times a year, guys. It's when the summer hits, right? When the summer months start to happen and people start to plan their vacations. And then I see it happen around the holidays. And I'm going to let Zac kind of go into this in a minute. But guys, our business doesn't sleep, and it doesn't have to sleep. Right. So we don't need to wait for the New Year's resolution of, hey, January 1st, 2025, what am I going to accomplish? Right. We don't have to wait for the first of the year. We don't have to wait for, oh, shoot, my family's in town. I'm going to be eating and doing all this stuff. And they want to go out this weekend. They want to do all this. And then there's a 3 weeks before Christmas. And then we're really excited about Christmas. And then all of a sudden it becomes January and you're like, oh, my goodness. And trust me, guys, this is from personal experience because I used to do this. And it's one of my biggest regrets in the business is taking those seasons off when everybody else gets to take them off, instead of going as hard as you can at your business and not losing this momentum that you have. So that way, starting the new year, instead of starting from behind, you're like, hey, this is just what I've been doing. I've been dialing my clients. I've been showing up, right? Zac's team dials on Thanksgiving. We'll be dialing on Thanksgiving for anybody who wants to hop on Zoom for those morning hours, right? Guys, this is what I've been doing. I don't have a New Year's resolution because I've been working. I've been getting my goals. I've been showing up every single day. And I just thought that was really, really cool. Someone said, someone had typed in this chat today that I'm in, this isn't holiday season, this is separation season, because this is the time of year that is going to separate you from everybody else, right? When everyone else lets off the gas, how many families are you going to protect? How many, extra miles are you going to go? How much more are you going to do for you? So that way, when the first of the year comes around, you're coming from a really, really awesome place. And I'm just excited. I'm grateful for you guys. I'm thankful to have this amazing business and everything that it's done for my life, plus brought me in contact with all of you amazing people. So that being said, guys, I'm going to bring Zac on here really quick. I'm not going to have you drop it in the chat, but for anybody who might be new, it would be weird to me if you didn't know who Zac Twardowski was. But if you didn't, I want to give him a proper introduction really quick. So when I got into the business, guys, 4 years ago, Zac Twardowski, and he always has been, right? But we get so lucky because now so many teams are growing. And so Zac was like the it guy and has always been the it guy. Okay. I remember at annual convention and all the meetings, they would say, Zac Twardowski is the fastest growing agency in the whole entire company. Okay. Then they would say Zac Twardowski is the youngest at the time that he did his integrity partnership, was the youngest integrity partner to ever be partnered with Integrity. And not just from FFL, all of Integrity and all the businesses they own, Zac Twardowski was the youngest to do it. He was the quickest to do the integrity partnership, right? He was he had the most Hall of Fame producers, right? Zac, there used to be a leaderboard. Zac was the leading from the front, had the most Hall of Fame producers on his team. It was him, Easton, you guys know Jake Cohn, all those people, right? Then it was when we really started to talk about profitability. Zac Twardowski has grown one of the most profitable agencies in the company, okay? And then he also had the highest issue paid per writer. So I used to call Zac and be like, Zac, your agents, like you have less agents than us, but you have more people, making more money. So how have you done that? So I want to say that just to give him a proper introduction, that anything that you could need to know about this business from a sales standpoint, from a Hall of Fame producer standpoint, from an integrity partnership standpoint, from, hey, I'm young and I feel like I'm just getting into the business and I don't have business experience, but now I want to create this big empire. To I want to be profitable, to I want to recruit as many people as possible, guys. Zac is the guy who truly, truly has paved the way for all of us. So I would encourage you guys to grab your notepads out. I would write down, I'm going to be writing down everything he says. I cannot tell you how much he's accomplished here and how much he continues to show up and work. And I'm just really excited to have him on. So Zac, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thanks so much for getting on.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. And that was quite the introduction. So I'm going to do my best to not screw it up. And I think hopefully, Marissa, what everyone takes away from this after is like, you said all those really kind things and I appreciate them, but I think everyone will go, oh, hopefully I can do the exact same thing because Zac's not special. And he just did a few things that he learned from other people. Like nothing that I've done in this business was original, right? I think one thing, Marissa, that I took, maybe it was from the way I was raised, but was being coached and listening to people who were better than me at the business, which was basically everyone when I was new. So like if anyone on here is new, and Marissa said, like I sold a lot of insurance and taught a lot of people how to sell a lot of insurance. I remember someone asked me the other day, what was your goal your first month in the business? And this is year 7 in the business for me. And I remember I just moved to South Carolina, me and Deborah, girlfriend at the time, wife now. And my goal the very first month was like, can I make $6,000 this month? I don't know why $6,000, but I was like, if I make $6,000, I can pay off my credit card and I can pay for rent and I'll have a little bit left over to reinvest in leads, right? And so if you're new and you're hearing all these big numbers and you see people writing $50,000 in 2 weeks, which You guys having your biggest month ever, on track for 2 million. That's amazing. And congrats to all you guys. But if you're new and you're like, man, those numbers seem really big and unrealistic to me, if you get around the right people, like the people on this call and like the people at convention, then your vision will continue to grow, right? Like I think we had right at 600 agents issue business last month. If you told me that when I was a new agent, there'd be 600 people that were in some way associated with me at anything in my life, I never would have believed you. Because at that point in my life, I didn't see myself as a business person, but getting around the right people and having the right mentorship and going to convention, things like that have allowed me to grow into a better business person, right? So every time Marissa kept talking in the intro, I was like, "Ooh, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that." There were so many good things that she talked about, but I think like the first thing that I want to talk about and hammer home is convention, right? Because I think back to when I started in the business. So I started end of 2017. My first 2 months were not very good, right? I talked about my goals were really small in the beginning. I'm like, can I just make $6,000 and make $10,000? And then I got to convention the first year. It was in Dallas. It was 2018. And I remember getting there and I just went and talked to everybody who, and by everyone, I mean everyone who was on stage who was training, because I figured that Sean and FFL would only put people on stage who were, well equipped to train, right? And I probably looked like a dork. I had a notepad. I was running around. I have a picture of my. I'll find it at the end if we have time, Marissa. I have a picture of me from back then. I showed somebody the other day. They're like, that doesn't even look like you. But I had like a mismatched like suit jacket. It was gray. I'm wearing like blue pants and like some dorky tie. And then Deb was next to me. I'm like, why was she with me? This makes no sense. But I was running around with like a yellow legal pad and just asking everyone who was on stage questions. And what I realized was that they were all super different. They were all like there was different, ages, different sexes, different, races. Everyone was different. Everyone's pitches were different. Everyone's like philosophy on the business was different. But what I realized was that they did one thing in common. And if anyone has a guess, put it in the chat. But they did one thing in common, which is actually two things really. They had some level of self belief, and no one's gonna get. I'm gonna do it anyways. And they were willing to reinvest into leads, and they're willing to be aggressive with leads, right? And I realized that some people were better closers than others. Some people were, more charismatic. Some people had 13 steps to close a final expense appointment. Some people walked in and said, "Hey, I heard you're looking for some life insurance," right? Everyone was doing things totally differently, but the people that were succeeding at the highest level believed in themselves and they were willing to reinvest into their business. And so what I took home from convention was I got to make a bunch of amazing connections. I got to see a bunch of people on stage. I learned a lot about the products, trainings. I got to meet all the carriers. But going to convention instilled a lot of belief into myself where I was like, if all these different people can do this stuff, all these different people from all these different walks of life, different levels of education, different upbringings, different business experience, if they could all succeed at this, then why not me, right? And I hope I hope as you guys are watching this and listening to this, and as you see the leaderboard, like your guys' leaderboard is so incredibly diverse, which is amazing because you have people that have nothing in common succeeding at the same level, right? And if you're someone who's new, you should be looking at that. And I think our brains as we grow up train you to be negative and try to go like, oh, they're doing something special. But you should be looking at that and going, look, all these people are different. They're all having the same result. Like, why should that not be me? And what I went to convention, that's what I came away with. Before I thought everyone had a secret bullet or a magic pill that they were doing or a secret lead source or a magic phone script that they read. And what I came away with was, why not me? Why can't I do exactly what they're doing? That's a man, that's a woman. They have no special talents or skills I don't have. It's not the NBA, it's not the NFL. It's just they learn how to say a series of words a certain way to someone else on the other line of the phone, on the other side of the phone. Not that big of a deal. I can learn that too. And I think everyone on this call should get around the people and ask all of the people who are top producers, because I think when you have conversations with them, you'll walk away and you won't be impressed with them so much as you'll go, why can't I do the same thing? And that's what convention taught me. So what I learned then was to be a good producer from convention. Then fast forward a couple of years later, I remember it was 2019. I was talking to one of my managers about this today. We went from 100,000 that year to a million by the end of that year. And they were like, what happened that year? Like, can you walk me through how you had that growth? And I remember exactly what it was. It was Sean Mike told me that every agent you get to convention equates to about $10,000 of premium a couple months later, right? I'm like, okay, that sounds pretty good. So I was like, how many people can I get to convention? I had like 10 people on my team at the time. So I had a relatively small team. But I spent the 3 months leading up to convention just calling, texting, recruiting. everyone that had written a policy, not written a policy, had even shown the slightest interest that they might want to work in the insurance business, and was just doing everything I could to get them to convention. Now, what a lot of people think like trying to get people to convention is that they send a text message or an email, or they post on their Instagram and call it a day, which does not really work. The people that are going to do that would do that because they got the email from FFL anyways. Like, so what I was doing that year, what we still do, my staff and I work on this today, is we get a list of everyone that's signed up with us, everyone that's contracted with us, and we go through and call every single person. And while they're on the phone, we get them to sign up for a convention, right? And that's what I did that year. I was like, hey, have you booked your flight yet? No. Okay, why don't you book it? When? Right now, while I'm on the phone with you, right? And it did two things. I could see who was serious about making this business work. And it also made people get uncomfortable and put their down payment down, go to convention. They're okay. I put my down payment for my flight down. I might as well get licensed now. But what happened from that year was we were doing $100,000 at convention. And by May of that year, we were doing $500,000 because I had 51 people at convention. And my team 5X over the next 5 months because everyone at convention. And one, it was because of all the belief they had. But two, if you think about, annual convention, we'll have a couple hundred Hall of Fame producers this year. There's a lot of amazing managers. There's a lot of people who are much better at recruiting than I am, selling than I am, who are much better at all parts of the business than I am, right? So if you're building a team, you should go, why would I not want to get my whole team around them and have them be trained by all these amazing people? I can offload a lot of the work, which, by the way, I'm a big fan of being efficient. If someone else wants to train my agents, sign me up. I'm totally in. So you can get all of your agents around all the top performers in the country and let them have a 3-4 day boot camp and get around all the top producers, top performers, and let them do all the training. And then when you get back from convention, all your agents that you were working with and talking to for hours and hours a day, they all know what to do now. So they can go sell insurance, they can start recruiting, and then it allows you to start recruiting new people. So I think people hear convention and they understand that it sounds like it's something that's important and it sounds like it's a big deal. But if you look at the amount of money, like if you're only driven by money and not by helping people, which I hope it's mostly helping people, but if you're only driven by money, if you're making 10% or you're making 10% on $500,000, my income from overrides went from like 5-6 grand a month to 60-70 grand a month overnight, like that, just by calling people and getting them to convention, right? And I think that people underestimate how big of an impact events like this can have on the trajectory of your business, because now every year we do the same thing. And like Marissa said, the teams that promote the best and get the most people to convention are always the teams that grow the most the next year. So this year, the guy that I was talking about that wanted to go from, I had a guy last year that wanted to go from 100,000 to 1 million, Ronnie Salem. Last year, they had about 60 people at convention. They were doing right about 200 grand a month at convention. This last month, they had 907,000. They're going to be at 1.2 million this month in December, because their huge focus was piling everyone into convention. They had so much momentum coming out of that it could not be stopped. So anyone on here who's serious about building your business, that should be your huge focus from now through February, is to get as many people as you possibly can to convention. And yeah, it is sick, Dominic, because the impact and it's hard for anyone to, if you haven't experienced it, it's hard to believe it, but the impact it'll have on your business is hard to put into words. So anyways, I will get off my soapbox on that, but I just wanted to hammer that home because everyone looks for a cheat code or a silver bullet, and there's not one besides annual convention. Outside of that, it's you got to work really hard, reinvest in your business, be relentless, work weekend, all these other things. The only thing that remotely could be viewed as a cheat code is getting everyone you can to annual convention. So cool. Shift gears, Marissa. The next thing, the thing that you talked about that I thought was super impactful was working on weekends, working holidays, and essentially just outworking everyone else, right? Because the beautiful thing about life insurance and the industry we're in is it's a super low barrier to entry industry, right? Meaning you can get your license, you can get a couple states, you can get fingerprinted, you can get set up and ready to sell insurance for like $300 to $500, right? Super, super easy business to get into. Now, the downside of that is that a lot of people can get into that business, right? So you should be looking and thinking all the time, like, what can I do to set myself apart from the competition? And something I learned early in business and a principle I've tried to live by is whenever something seems inconvenient or like I don't want to do it, like whenever who here has got that feeling today? Anyone on this call? Make sure y'all are alive. Cool. Not just me. So whatever I taught myself this early in the business, whenever I got the feeling like I don't want to run that last appointment, I don't feel like making this recruiting call, I don't want to call this agent who has had a bad day, whatever I feel like not doing, I was like, I bet you most of my peers, if not all my peers, feel the exact same way. And if I do it, I'll probably be the 1% that actually does it, and it'll put me that much farther ahead, right? And like Marissa said, separation season, I was always looking for places I could get a little advantage because I knew I wasn't the best at sales. I wasn't the best at recruiting. My recruiting pitch was literally this when I was new, Marissa. I'd go, we sell life insurance. I could give you a spiel about it. I'm not very good at it. This is what I deposited last week. We get these leads. I call them. This is what the carriers paid me. Do you want to work with me or not? That's all I knew how to do recruiting wise. I wasn't good at recruiting. I didn't have some fancy pitch, but I knew that worked. And if I did it enough times, then it would work more than people who did it a couple times a week, right? So things like Thanksgiving, Black Friday, working through Christmas. When I was brand new in the business, and we still do this every year, and as you grow a team, people will take on some of the stuff from you, so you don't have to be the one pushing it all the time, which is what I could tell is the amazing thing on here. You guys have developed a lot of amazing leaders who can take stuff off of Marissa's plate, which is what should happen, right? Because people should start to brand their own business and go, hey, I'm in control of my own business. My destiny is my responsibility to take this on and take it on my shoulders and drive the business forward, right? But in the beginning, you have to be the person that sets that culture. So when we were new, I remember when I was new, the norm was we were in the field, people would dial Mondays, run Tuesday, Wednesday, dial Thursday, run Friday. And everyone was running like 15 appointments a week, maybe 20 appointments a week. I was like, if I run 15, I close 2. Like, I'm not good at this. If I run 15 appointments, 10 show up, I close 2. Like, I'm just not good at sales. Some people were really good. I think people like Sean had always closed 10 out of 10. I was the other side of that. Like, I closed the 2 people who were laydowns, and that was it. But what I started realizing was it's going to take a long time for me to get better. So I might as well just put the numbers so far in my favor that even though I suck, if I suck enough, I'll be as good as the people that don't suck, right? And I think my inability to sell in the beginning forced me to work more hours, and then eventually I ended up getting better, right? So the first year in the business, I wrote $406,000. Okay, I ran 35 appointments a week in the field every single week. I would close, if I sat with 10 people, I'd close 2 to 3 of them. Really bad, right? What I didn't account for though was eventually you get better. If you do something enough times, like it's impossible to suck forever unless you don't pay attention. And what I did along the way was always call everyone I could who knew what they were doing and ask them for feedback on my appointments. So like if I missed a sale, I'd call Marissa, go, hey, this is what happened in the sale. What did I do wrong? And then she would give me her feedback. Then I'd call another 40K producer and then one more. And I'd get 3 people's feedback on it. And then I would try to implement it right away. So the first year, 406,000, 36 appointments. Second year, it jumped to 650,000, same amount of appointments. And the third year was like 810,000. And I only ran through 10 months of that year, and I had to get out of the field by October because our team was growing so much. And what I didn't change anything at all. I didn't change I kept the same lead spend. I kept the same schedule, same appointments. What happened was I got a little more confident and I got better at sales, which eventually will happen. But along the way, what happened is my schedule was so consistent and so locked in. And I told everyone, like, if someone's like, man, Zach, you're good at sales. Like, I'm not good at sales. I close like 33% of the people I sit in front of. But I suck so much, I can teach you, even if you're not good at sales, how to make money too. And that became our message, right? And the message became, it doesn't matter if you're the best closer in the world. It doesn't matter if you have some slick line. It doesn't matter if, you feel good about yourself as a salesperson or not. I can teach you how to sell insurance at a high level, whether or not you're good at sales. And like Marissa said, it's important for your team to have an identity. It's important for your team to have something to kind of rally behind. And our message was, whether or not you're good, we're going to outwork everyone and you're going to make money doing this. And it became something I could recruit to, right? So I think everyone on here should be looking at it and saying, like, if you're building a team, what do you want your message to be? I want our message to be anyone can do this, and you could be a blue collar worker. And no matter if no matter if you have tons of sales experience or no sales experience, if you're willing to work hard, have a good attitude, ask for help, and invest in leads, you're going to make money doing this. If you don't have some of those things, it's not going to work out for you. And that messaging always carried throughout the holidays. So every year we would dial on Thanksgiving. I'd run appointments on Black Friday. And people would always say, like, you're working on Black Friday? I'd be like, yep, I'm working on Black Friday. I got great insurance deals for you tomorrow. I'll be at your house at 4:00. Sound good? You're Black Friday shopping, right? Tomorrow, Marissa? Yeah, I am. Okay, cool. Does 3:00 work better or 6:00 work better? Right. And I think you just have to play along with people on the holidays. Hey, they got you calling on Thanksgiving. Yeah, my boss is a jerk. Like, I'm my boss. Hey, my boss is a jerk. He makes me call Thanksgiving morning. Anyways, tomorrow, what time works best for you? Or, hey, do you want to bang out this appointment on the phone right now? Either way is good for me. Right. But you just have a little bit of fun throughout the holidays. And then I would always also I'd all dial on Christmas Eve. And then I would run the 26th, day after Christmas. And I did that the first couple years out of necessity. And then as our team continued to grow, I remember what it felt like to be broke and be a new agent and not have any money and not be able to afford anything and be struggling financially. I remembered that feeling. So when I started doing well and started making money, I didn't want to leave everyone else who was in that position behind and not give them somewhere where they felt like it was safe to plug into during the holidays, right? Because who on here has been working a Friday or Saturday or Sunday and someone in their family go, oh, you're working again. Why aren't you hanging out with us, right? There's a lot of negative influences that pull you that way. And I think it's our job as managers to be the person that pulls the other way and go, hey, it's okay to want to be financially free. It's okay to want more for you and your family. It's okay to kind of buck the system and not fall into the capitalistic traps. It's okay to be the one that breaks the curse of your family being broke forever. Because you got to think about it. People have so many negative influences pulling them this way, saying, why don't you just hang out with us? Why don't we get drunk all day? Hey, it's 8:15 on Thanksgiving. Why don't we start drinking? And you go, dude, why don't we make $2,000 Thanksgiving morning, right? Why don't we get up and go to the gym and be healthy in the morning? Why don't we set up our kids and our future generations in a way that we never thought we could? Why don't we breathe life into people and teach them how to be financially savvy, right? It's someone's responsibility to do that. And I wanted to be that example for our team, not the one that was, getting drunk and being passed out by 4 p.m. on Thanksgiving. That doesn't do anyone any good. There's enough negative people pulling you that direction. And I saw that as my responsibility as a leader to be the one that wanted to drag my team this way. And I've seen people on our team, they did all the work, but I've seen people on our team like Wiley, Marissa, who knows, team's doing 2.5, they're at $2 million through the first 2 weeks of this month. When I was new, like he didn't know anything about business. I introduced him to the business. I pointed him in the right direction. He worked his butt off. But it feels good to have pointed people in the right direction and change the trajectory of their families' lives. And I think when this business becomes more of a mission for people and you feel very strongly about what you're doing and how you're going to impact people's lives, you'll make a lot of money along the way, but you'll feel a lot better about what you're doing. And working Thanksgiving morning won't be a big deal. I remember when we were running in-homes, Marissa, I had an office in Denver, Colorado. I lived in Colorado Springs, like an hour apart. I'd wake up at 5 in the morning and go to the gym. I'd be done by like 6:30 in the morning. I would drive to my office. I'd be there by 7:30. I'd get on and dial with everyone till like 10 o'clock for 3 hours. I'd drive back home. I'd be there by 11 and everyone would be waking up. They'd be getting out of bed and my parents would be rolling over. I'm like, I didn't miss anything. I've been up for 5 hours. I missed nothing so far today. Right. And I think setting little examples like this for your team can make a big difference if you choose to. Now, if your goal is to be a part-time agent and sell 10 grand a month and make a little bit of extra money and buy some extra Christmas gifts alongside your full-time job, do you too, right? And that's, Marissa, where I had to improve as a leader is I was trying to make everyone do what I wanted them to do. And for everyone on here who's either a manager or an agent, like your goal as a manager should be able to figure out what your agent's goals are financially and help them reach those goals. Where I screwed up a lot early on was, if Riyadh was like, hey, I want to sell 15 grand, I'd go, dude, why do you want to sell 15 grand? You should sell 50 grand, right? And then I would try to implant my goals on him. And then he goes, dude, that guy's an asshole. He just wants me to sell 50 grand so he can make a bigger override, right? Whereas if I just go, all right, Riyadh, you're doing 8 grand a month now, which he would never do. He does 50 grand a month, but you're doing 8 grand a month now. We do X, Y, and Z to get to 15, help him hit his goal, then go, cool, man. Hey, are you happy with 15 or do you want to do more? Because I think you're capable to do more if you want to do more, right? But you have to get good at helping your team hit their goals instead of making your goals their goals. And that was one of the biggest mistakes I had was I tried to make everybody dial on Thanksgiving and everyone dial on Christmas instead of going, hey, I'll be working on these days. Not Christmas. I don't work on Christmas, but on Christmas Eve. I started going like, hey, I'm gonna be working these days. Anyone that wants to work, feel free to plug in. We'll do some training, we'll do some dials. I'm here to help anyone that wants to be helped. And you have to understand this is a volunteer army. So you can make yourself available. And then if people want to be helped, then they'll reach out to be helped.
Yeah, I love that. Zach, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yes, of course.
It was
Sorry,
kind
my ADD brain was going all over the place. So
no, I want to
back
do
on
that,
track.
but then I want to get off track on something you said though, but kind of on track. So you mentioned, and I think this is so important for you because I remember we're supposed to be a doctor because your dad was a doctor, like everyone in your family is doctors, your wife is a doctor. And so I would assume that you dealt with a lot of like negative at first, like, oh, you're going to sell insurance. And I think a lot of people in their lives deal with that. Like, people have asked me that, but, oh, you're doing the insurance thing. Like, how did you deal with or did you deal with like these outside perspectives? Because I think a lot of agents, sometimes people that have in their ear of like, oh, you're doing insurance, you were supposed to do this or you were supposed to do that. And they don't have like this belief system behind them.
Yeah. So I think for me, I knew that was going to be an issue, right? So the first 3 months I was in the business, I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Now, in hindsight, like my parents might have thought I was selling drugs or something, which probably was stressful for them because they're like, he's making money. Like is he doing something illegal? So I'm not saying don't tell your family what you're doing, but I knew that was going to be an issue. So I just didn't tell anyone what I was doing for the first 3, 4 months. And then what I realized was people don't think about you as much as you think they do, right? Like I think everyone thinks that they're the center of the world and like all these people are thinking about them 24/7. And really what I realized was like not that many people are thinking about you, not that many people care. And the only ones I really cared about were the ones I wanted, the one person I wanted to be on my side, which was my wife. Outside of that, like if my parents didn't like it, her parents didn't like it, like I really didn't care that much. And I had to convince myself it wasn't that big of a deal. And Marissa, Sean taught me that. Like what other people think about you is none of your business anyways, right? And how does it serve you in any sort of positive way? As long and if you have a partner or a wife or someone like that who's with you all the time, you need that person to be supportive with you. Outside of that, you really don't, you know? And what I learned was once I started doing well and validated it, then my family was on my side anyway, you know? So and now being able to see it from the other side a little bit, like I have two very little kids, but I can already tell like you just want your kids, you just want the best for your kids, right? So I think when parents try to like push you one way or the other, it may be because they're like, oh, like that sounds scary. Like we don't want you to go the wrong way. And I think if you can prove to them by working your ass off, by having a good attitude, by making freaking money doing this and proving that what you're doing works and proving that what you're doing is a good thing, then you can validate it for them and they're not going to ask you questions anymore. Like once I started making really good money doing this and like I took my parents, my wife's parents, and my wife on vacation a couple years ago, all of them, and they were like, "Oh, this insurance thing is pretty badass, huh?" My dad was like, maybe I should have insurance to be a doctor. I'm still working, you know." It's like they're all joking, like this is great, you know. They get to go on Zach pays for all the vacations, all good. Sound no one else paying for my vacations, right? And like that became the running joke, like, "Oh, we want to go on vacation, let's hit up Zach." But 3 years earlier, everyone was like, "You sure you want to do this insurance thing?" Right. So I just was like, I'm going to block out all the noise, move forward, and I'm going to prove it. And one of my life kind of principles or mottos is like, I would ask for forgiveness, not permission, you know, in a lot of things. Like I'm going to go, if I think something's the right thing to do, I'm going to go try it. There was an agent today who asked me a great question. He was like, "Hey, I want to hire an admin and my upline said that's not a good idea. What do you think?" I'm like, "Dude, you are a grown ass man and an independent contractor. If you want to hire an admin, go hire an admin. If it's a bad idea, what's the worst that happens? You spend a couple $1,000s and you had a good experience with hiring someone and firing someone. But if you think something is the right decision, for everyone on this call, your job as independent contractors to try things and to take the right prerogative and to move forward. If you think something is a good idea, you should try it. And then you should get feedback along the way from your mentors. But your mentors are there to give you all the information that they have, and it's your obligation to make the right decision given all the information you get. But you can't be waiting on Marissa or me or Riyadh or anyone to tell you what to do. Like you have to get the information and act and move forward in business. And same with that's the way I feel in my personal life. Like I appreciated all the info I was getting. I knew that there was some risk in business. Anytime you're in any business, there's some inherent risk. But the upside was here. And I was willing to go here with I know there was some risk down here. But there's risk in anything you do, right? Like I also think there's an equal amount of risk of making $150,000 a year and working for 30 years for doing something you hate. That sounds way more risky to me than taking an opportunity to live a far more substantial free life. So I think it's just about how you think about it. And then once you're making the money and once you are proving that what you're doing works, then the questions all stop. And then what happens, like you said earlier, Marissa, is then they start asking you for money, right? And they start expecting nice stuff and trips and whatnot. But hey, I prefer that instead of them trying to tell me what I'm doing is stupid.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Let's see. Is anyone? I forgot where I was going with this whole thing now. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to plug them in here. I took a couple notes before. Oh, the other thing, Marissa, I wanted to talk about is I know a lot of people are focusing heavily on profitability in their business right now, which I think is great. The way I think you should look at your business from a profitability standpoint and the things that can improve. Now, my overall philosophy on this was like, I wanted to grow the overall deposits first. So same thing with like working. I want to work really hard and get a lot of activity first. And then once you have a lot of activity, then you can focus on where you need to get better, right? So you can focus on, refining your skill set, getting better with your lead flow, all that sort of stuff. I think same thing with, being profitable. You want to drive up your gross revenue first. So you want to sell a lot of insurance, sell at a really high level, make sure you're keeping all in the books and keep driving the gross revenue up. And then once you have kind of the gross revenue up, then you can start cutting out expenses. But I think sometimes people try to go like, hey, I'm going to spend, $321 on leads and hope that my ROI is, 5X and I make $1,500, right? For me, I'm like, I would rather spend $2,000 on leads and try a bunch of different lead types and see what works, try dialers, try not having dialers, and try a bunch of things, but turn that $2,000 into $6,000 or $8,000, right? And then figure out what works best for me as a lead flow. And then once I understand my lead flow, then I can start trimming down and being more economical with my expenses. But what I say it to say is I think your goal when you're new should be to have as much activity as possible and to get your deposits super high. And then once you get your deposits going through the roof and you're depositing 30, 40, 50, 60 grand a month, then start taking that and figuring out from that, what do I net? And where am I wasting money at? And what things am I, essentially throwing money away that I don't need to be doing? And then cut down on those expenses so your net is better. I think so often people look at ROI and they're like, oh, well, if I spend 400 on leads, I could, 5X that. I'm like, I'd rather spend 2,000 and 3X that, right? Instead of 5Xing on 500. Give me 3X on 2,000. That's a lot more net for me, right? So I think I think you should definitely look at that. And then time management is the other one I wanted to cover, Marissa, and then I'll go through and answer some of the questions. A lot of people who are building and selling feel like they have to choose one, or if they do one, that it takes away from the other. And I challenge people to look at the white space on your calendar and see if you actually have a strategy. So I was doing we did a training for like 3 hours at our office today. So I'm reiterating some of the stuff we talked about, but one of the agents was like, he sold 60 grand and then he sold 40 and then 60 and he's going back and forth. I'm like, why are you so inconsistent? And he's like, well, 1 month I'll be super heavily focused on selling. And then the next month I'll be super heavily focused on recruiting. And he kind of goes up and down with those, right? Has anyone experienced that before? And he'll have like a good week where he'll recruit a lot and then he'll sell a lot and it's just all over the place. I'm like, dude, you're just riding this roller coaster. Because if you do 60, then 40, you have chargebacks, then you feel like you make no money and it's really frustrating, right? I'm like, instead of doing that, why don't you every day do both, right? And have set aside specific times in your calendar to do both. So we went through and built out his calendar. I'm like, all right, what times during the day do you make the most sales when you're in telesales? He's like, well, I usually get a couple sales between like 9 and 12. I'm like, okay, cool. So you're going to sell from 9 to 12. What do you do from 8 to 9? Well, I wake up at 7, I go to the gym. I'm like, all right, you're going to be an adult now. And you're going to wake up at 5 o'clock. You're going to be done with the gym by 6:30. Then you're going to get to the office by 8. And then from 8 to 9, you're going to do recruiting from 8 to 9. Okay. He's like, okay, sounds good. And then I'm like, what about from from 12 to 2? Do you sell anything there? He's like, nah, people don't answer that much. I'm like, okay, cool. So from 12 to 2, you're going to do more recruiting during that time. And then what time do you sell the most after that? He's like, I sell a lot from like 4 to 7. I'm like, cool. So then you're going to take a break at 3, get your mind right. Then from 4 to 7 or 4 to 8, be back on the phones and be selling again. So you're going to maximize all your time, right? And you're going to have dedicated time every day to do both things. And I'm like, before you leave the office every day, you're going to make one sale and recruit one person every single day. Can you do that? Absolutely. Okay, cool. And then that way, his drop dead minimum every day is I'm going to get one. And this is a newer guy. Like he's could sell a lot. He sold 60, he sold 40, but he's like 4 months in the business, up and down, right? He's like, but that seems low. I'm like, I know, but have you recruited one person and sold one policy every day this week so far? He's like, well, I sold 4 policies yesterday. I'm like, yeah, but did you recruit anyone? No. Okay. I'm like, cool. We can't get lower than 1. So your minimum every single day is 1 and 1. And once you hit 1 and 1 every single day for a couple weeks in a row, then we're going to increase it to 2 and 2. So I think when you're looking at your schedule and you go, hey, what can I do to become the most efficient manager or the most efficient agent I possibly can, is figure out what your overall goal is. His overall goal is to be at $1 million a month. I'm like, okay, you need 80 to 100 agents to do that. Seems like a lot. What can we do every single day to have building blocks to hit those goals? And I think the best way to do that is the long-term goal. $1 million a month seems like a big number, right? So how far can we shrink that down to a bite-sized tangible number that you can do every single day? And for him, it was like, let's do 1 and 1. Now, if you can't do 1 and 1 every single day, I believe everyone on this call can recruit one person and make 1 sale a day. But if you go, I just can't do that yet. I'm like, cool. Can you do 3 recruits a week and 3 sales a week? And whatever number it is to where you have to hit it, I want everyone to figure out what their daily or weekly non-negotiable is, set that, and make sure you hit it every single week. And then once you hit it for a couple weeks in a row, then you can start adding to it. And then what it does mentally is you're like, okay, I set a goal, I hit it. Cool. Now can I build on it? Now I set a bigger goal, I hit that. Cool. Now can I build on it? And then what happens is you get, okay, now I'm making 3 sales a day, 3 recruits a day. How do I recruit more people every single day? Maybe I need a staff person to help me. And then you start outsourcing and adding more things on. But all of this starts from having very basic goals that you can hit. And all of that backtracks all the way to having a locked in schedule that you do every single day. Because I think what happens, Marissa, a lot of times is people at convention or at the beginning of the year, January 1st, they go, this is my goal by the end of the year. Everyone goes, I want to hit Hall of Fame, right? But I'm like, what does that take? It's $33,000 a month, right? Okay, if you run, so how much is that a week, right? You got to do $8,000 a week. So how much is that a day? Okay, you got to do, one policy a day if you write $1,500. And I want everyone to shrink it all the way down to what their daily non-negotiables are and make sure that every day before you leave the office or log off of Zoom or are done working, you hit your daily non-negotiable goals. And if you miss it for some reason, something catastrophic happens, you have a terrible day, then the next day you don't get to start over and go, all right, 1 and 1 day. You go, nope, I missed yesterday. Now I have to recruit 2 people today and make 2 sales today. And just set daily non-negotiable goals for yourself that you can never miss. And when I started doing that, it let me attack every single day and not be so worried about the big drastic goal at the end. It was like, how do I hit these smaller goals every single day, no matter what? And that made things a lot more tangible for me and able to stomach what seemed like a really outrageous goal. How is the conversation to get agents to convention when they've not been active? So I think it depends on, you have to know who you're talking to, right? If it's someone who, is like a friend or someone you can handle, like I would call them. If it was a friend, I'd go, hey man, you've not really been active in insurance. You're working your job. Are you liking that still? Like you seem way too talented to make $3,000 a month. I can't imagine that you're loving making, $3,000 a month when you could be doing what we're doing over here. No, I'm not very happy. Okay, cool. Well, dude, I want to help you, but I need you to help yourself too. So what I need you to do is sign up for our annual convention. It's the end of January. It's January 28th through February 1st, something like that. I'm sending you a link right now. I need you to sign up for it. I need you to be there. And if you can get there, dude, I'll be able to pour back into you. But you've been up and down for so long. I can't even tell if you're serious or not. I need you to show me that you want to take this seriously. And then if you have a lot of people who have been around for a while but not been active, a lot of times we can waste a lot of mental energy and time on people who are never going to do anything, right? Like a lot of times you keep trying to revive the dead. And Trey said this one time, Marissa, it's funny. He's like, it's easier to give birth than to revive the dead, right? And I was like, that's kind of a funny way to put it, but I think it's true. And instead of trying to keep getting people up over and over again who tell you once in a while that they're going to be the best agent, the next integrity partner, the next $1 million producer, get hyped up for one day and then quit, instead of trying to keep reviving that person, just go to the next person and recruit someone new, right? Because new people will be excited to go to convention. You can tell them, hey, all Deion Sanders and all these people are going to be at convention. All these guys and girls that sell $1 million a year in insurance are going to be at convention. They'll sign up right away. But the same person who's been around doing nothing for 3 years, I don't think you have a shot with that person. So you might as well focus a lot more time, effort, energy on bringing new people to convention, because those are the people you're going to have the highest ROI on anyways. What are some tips on hyper recruiting? What do you mean by that, Desiree? Hyper recruiting?
Just recruiting at a high level. Devin actually had that question.
Yeah, I just see some people in the industry able to like really recruit really fast, like maybe get 50 people on a call at a time. Like I don't know if you have any tips for hyper recruiting in that manner, whether it's paid ads, just reach out, whatever.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that with recruiting, I treat recruiting the same way I treat leads, right? Where I want to have a bunch of different sources for it. So we do outbound reach out, we do warm market of new agents, we do paid advertising, we do all of it. And I think the quality comes from doing the quantity. So when you're recruiting, you should be looking at, like I talked about before, like if your goal is, can I recruit one person a day? Okay, for me to recruit one person a day, how many conversations do I need to have? I wasn't that good at recruiting. I'm like, I had to talk to like 5 people to recruit one, right? Okay, I need to be able to talk to 5 people a day. How many DMs and how many ads do I need to have where I can have 5 conversations a day? And you kind of back your way into it. And then your goal should be, if I put 10 people in class a week, let's say, you should be looking and seeing who takes the most action the most quickly. And then I think a lot of people, what they do is they try to spend all their time with all 10 people. And the right way to do it is see who stands out from the crowd. And if that's 1 person or 2 people, focus all your time, effort, energy on those people. Help them sell their first $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. And if you have someone that comes on, gets through class in 2 weeks, gets licensed, sells 5 policies their first week, like you want a bunch more people like that, right? So your goal should be to take that person and focus time, effort, energy, love on them, a good relationship with them, spend hours on the phone with that person, get them rolling so that you can help them recruit their warm market, because they're going to be so excited about the business. And if they're good at the business, the chances are some other people in their circle are also going to be good at the business. So I say to say you should do a lot of recruiting, like do sort of mass recruiting, have a lot of conversations, and then treat it like a big tryout. See who stands out, see who the one, or if there's 10 people, see who the top 1 or 2 are, and invest all your time, effort, energy, and resources into those 2. Most people try to spread it out among the 10. It's like, no, you want to invest in the top 2 or 3 or 1 or 2, whoever's definitely better than the rest of them. Focus on those 2 people, get them killing it. And then once they're killing it, then they're going to recruit all their warm market, because we talk about selling and recruiting all of the above all day long. So they're going to come to you and go, hey, man, I'm killing this. How do I start recruiting? Does that make sense? I don't have to answer your question or not, but okay.
Yeah, that was great, Zach. Zach, thank you so much for getting on with us tonight. This has honestly been unbelievable. I feel like it's been so encompassing of like everything in the business, from a personal standpoint, new agent, all the way up to building a huge agency. So we know you're super busy, and I just couldn't be more grateful for your time tonight, and just excited to see you at convention and keep crushing it.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Hey, y'all keep killing it. Congrats again on having your biggest month ever. You guys could not be in better hands with Marissa. She's an amazing leader, and it's an absolute honor to be in business with you. So I appreciate everything y'all do. Keep crushing. I'll see you guys in February.
You're the best. Thanks, Zach. All right, guys, have a happy Thanksgiving with your family. We will still be on Zoom. We'll be everywhere, and anything I can do to help, obviously. I love you guys, and I will see you in 2 weeks. Have a good night, guys.